Here's the polystyrene drawing projects I completed during the month of August 2024. I worked on them both at my mom's place for a total of a handful of hours over a period of weeks. And then, sometime after completing them, I brought them over to my dad's place when my dad picked me up from my mom's place to take me to his place, as he was interested in them. Both as I worked on these projects and when I wasn't working on these projects, I used this plastic mini cup to hold them in place, as that's currently the best thing I have to keep these polystyrene balls from rolling. If you put them down a certain way, sometimes they'll either not roll or they'll roll a bit and stabilize, and other times they'll completely roll. So the mini plastic cups are to ensure they're kept in place. I finished this polystyrene drawing project first on August 21, though it's difficult to read the timestamp for this project due to a combination of the low contrast and perhaps maybe the lighting in this room. But I did complete this project on August 21 of this year. I got the idea for this project from a drawing I found from a YouTube video that was made using a combination of a black ink pen and some colored pencils, most likely. Initially, I was going to essentially recreate that image I found and took a screenshot of using the snipping tool function on my current primary laptop, so I could save that image as a reference image. Then I got the idea to do the sloping kind of blending for this project, and eventually I decided to use hues of blue for this side and hues of orange for this side, and I made the middle hues of green, since green on the color wheel is between blue and orange. Though I didn't blend absolutely everything, so that to some extent it could still represent a female face. I recall at one point, after I made and then connected dots to do all of the facial details on this side, and at one point this was going to be the only face I was going to do. This side was initially just going to be the back of her hair, but then I decided to do 2 female faces in order to practice facials more, along with practicing blending, primarily the sloping kind, but also a bit of the erasing kind by necessity. As for this project, to an extent, I decided to recreate the triangle ball polystyrene drawing project I had completed back in February of this year. And to some extent, I also decided that I wanted to do something different. So that's why, even though I did the same basic shape pattern for this project as I did for the original triangle ball polystyrene drawing project, I also decided that after I first used technically the lightest hue of the teals for the whole surface of this small polystyrene ball initially, after waiting at least a handful of hours, I recall it was overnight, to allow for that marker to dry, even though for Sharpie markers it probably only takes about a handful of minutes for it to completely dry. That's what I decided to do at the time. I recall starting this project either shortly before or shortly after I finished the Warm Cold Girl Ball polystyrene drawing project. What I did next was I started here with the ultra-fine point end of a dark green dual tip Sharpie marker to do a Triforce triangle pattern in which I made a triangle and then it's surrounded by 3 triangles that are flipped vertically, and then essentially doing my best to repeat that pattern throughout the whole surface of this small polystyrene ball, though because it's a 3D shape without any sides, at least that's my most likely theory currently. There was some difficulty due to natural distortion from this shape of maintaining that pattern. Once I had filled the surface of this small polystyrene ball with triangles. I then started coloring in the triangles using 3 different hues of green. Trying my best to not have 2 of the same hue triangle insides touching each other. And for the most part, I think I pretty much succeeded in that. I started by coloring this triangle with the lightest hue of green I used to color the insides of all of the triangles I drew for this project, and then I used the next darkest hue of green to color in the triangles surrounding that triangle, and then the darkest hue of green I used to color the insides of the triangles for the triangles surrounding those triangles. And then I just simply tried my best to repeat that pattern, going back to the lightest hue of green, and then going through the hues of green I used for coloring in the insides of the triangles, lightest to darkest, while also doing, again, my best to not have 2 triangles with their insides being the same hue of green touch each other.